Well, good Wednesday morning, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. As you can see, I have a great guest today. We're going to meet Jim Brech. You might have seen, well, gosh, you can see him around town. But you're most right now, I see you in the choir every other week and at both services usually. But Jim and I both live in the towers. So we are enjoying that a lot, and we often have dinner together. And Jim, you've been helping with our monthly worship service here in the towers too. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I've enjoyed that very, very much, Rick.
He plays what I'll let you tell. What instrument do you play?
Well, I play a baritone ukulele. Baritone ukulele sounds similar to a guitar in a way, in that the top four strings of a guitar are the same strings that I use on the baritone ukulele. And so the chording is very close.
I didn't even know that, you know. We often start with a verse for the day. Jim, can you tell us what a verse that's important in your life?
Yes, a verse that's important in my life is 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline.
Why is that important?
Well, number one, it always reminds me of Marilyn Lasat, who used to live here and was the leader in a small group that we joined some years ago. And so when I think of this verse, I think of her, of course, and I also think that it's a verse that says it all. Because we don't need to feel fear because we have Jesus in our life. And timidity, I don't know how to address that one exactly, but it's the verse says that we have a spirit of power,
yes,
and love and self-discipline. And all of those things just they appeal to me.
Yes,
they do.
Well, Jim, thank you for sharing, and I love that we started this conversation that way, because you really have been growing in the Lord, and it's fun to watch that. But what's your background? You come from, well, what state? Where were you from?
Well, I'm from Minnesota originally. Southern Minnesota, a town called Albert Lea and Glenville, two of them. And sometimes when I talk about Glenville, I refer to Glenville as Pleasantville.
Okay.
Because it was. I mean, when I grew up, it was wonderful, of course. We were sledding in the wintertime and ice skating in the wintertime. And in the summertime, we had a little stream, a little river actually meandering through the town called the Shell Rock River. And I would build rafts in the summertime and go up and down my section of the river there in town and just play around and aim at the turtles with my slingshot and stuff like that. And it was just
weren't those great times?
They were. It's almost unbelievable that I had such a wonderful environment to grow in.
So what brought you to California eventually?
Well, for some reason, I had it in my mind that I wanted to be in the service. So when I graduated from high school in Albert Lea, I joined the Navy, and I got on the Big Bird and flew to San Diego to boot camp at Camp Nimitz. And so I spent time there doing boot camp, and then I went home on leave for a few weeks, and I came back to Long Beach to the Naval Shipyard when there was a Naval Shipyard at Long Beach, and I joined a ship there called the USS Higbee, the only ship in the Navy named after a nurse, a female nurse. And it's decommissioned now, of course. That's been a few years ago, but and Long Beach is gone as far as the Naval Shipyard is concerned. That's where I got on the ship, though, and then we took off for the Western Pacific, Hawaii.
And I think you said, so why would I go back to Minnesota or something like that?
Exactly. I've lived in California for 60 years.
Oh,
and I've lived in Southern California for 50 years.
Yeah.
And I went to school in California. I'm an artist designer, and I went to school in Los Angeles thinking I was going to be an automotive designer, and that didn't work out. I became a product designer,
Yeah.
and so I did that for almost 40 years.
So
And
where did in this story, where did the Lord come into it?
well, the Lord came into my life. I've always believed in God, and I was raised Catholic in southern Minnesota,
As many of us
as,
were.
as many of
Not
us
Minnesota
were.
part.
And my wife always tells me that's such a wonderful thing to have that kind of a base to start with. While I was in the service, of course, I fell away from Catholicism because there really wasn't an opportunity always to go to a Catholic church. And so I went to other churches. When I was discharged from the service, I started going to Lutheran church and then Presbyterian church. And then finally, we were living in San Clemente for about 20 years. And then in 2007, we moved up into the woods, Laguna Woods Village. And then I started going to Saddleback Church. And the draw, of course, was Rick Warren. And so my wife was very interested in pursuing his teachings, and so we started going to church, and it was intermittent at that time. And then in 20, I guess we weren't ready to make a commitment at that time. It's all about responsibility and commitment, is what it is for us. So in 2018. We decided to join the church, become members, and we think of you fondly, Rick, for baptizing us, both of us, my wife and I, at the same time in May of 2018. And so then we became regulars for the church. We started going to church regularly, and we went through all the classes, 101, 102, and then through 4.
Yeah.
And then we were searching for a way that we could be involved in the church. And we started going to Bible study, and then we joined a small group. And then I joined the choir, and Nikki's heavily involved in leadership at the Bible study level.
Yeah.
And so we just we enjoy so much our new friends that we found in the church. And certainly you are one of them, you and Diane. And it's an absolute joy to be affiliated with
Jim, I think that your story, and as you told it there, the lesson for all of us is, as you've gotten more committed and more involved and so on, yes, you were somewhat involved, but it's brought so much more peace and joy in your life.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you said that, Rick, because I wanted to say something else about when and why we joined the church. And this was we were bopping along, and in 2016, I didn't really realize I needed a savior. I didn't know that I needed a savior. And I think the church has helped me so much to understand that I do need a savior. And now I have one. I have a lot of joy around it. But one of the things that drove me forward on this path is in 2016, I say the circus came to town, and it was political. And we were involved in watching the news and stuff like that, daily. And it became such with all the fake news and the lying and the racism and the bullying and all that, it became so much. We took Rick Warren's advice and just turned the TV off and got away from him.
Jim, we're basically out of time.
Okay.
That is such good advice to end on. This whole thing. Well, friends, when you see Jim and his wife Nikki around at church or in the towers, you just stop and talk to them. They love to talk with you. But we got to go for now, Jim.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, Rick.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
And I won't worry about tomorrow. I'm trusting